All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Today we gather here. I want to take a few minutes to reflect on what Veterans Day means. It's not just for our country, but also our local community. Every year on November 11th, Americans pause to honor those who have served the United States Armed Forces. Veterans Day is about recognizing courage, sacrifice, and a deep love of country, values that align with our local community right here in Fairmont. The holiday's origins date back to 1918, when the guns of World War I fell silent on the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. That day became known as Armistice Day, a time to celebrate peace and remember the sacrifices that made that peace possible. After World War II and the Korean War, our nation chose to expand that observance to honor all veterans over all branches of military and over all generations. But beyond the history, Veterans Day is really about one thing. It's about people. It's about the men and women, some of them from right here in Martin County, who chose to serve. They left the familiar comfort of small towns like the one we live in for whatever duty called, trusting that they were doing something that mattered. Many of them came home and continued serving in new ways, as teachers, coaches, business owners, and volunteers. Here at Fairmont, we see reminders of the service every day through our American Legion Post 36 and VFW Post 1222, and the many veterans who remain active in supporting their fellow service members and the next generation. Their continued involvement reminds us that service doesn't end when military duty is complete. It carries on in acts of leadership, mentorship, and care for others. And many of us have family members who have worn the uniform, maybe a parent, grandparent, or someone sitting right here. Their stories are a part of the fabric of our community. They remind us that service isn't something distant, it's right here. It's our homes, it's our schools, and it's in our neighborhoods. As Fairmont Cardinals, we have three core values: integrity, excellence, and service. Values that also define our veterans. They show us that real strength isn't about power, it's about purpose. It's about putting others before yourself, even when it is hard. So as we take part in today's program, let us think about what we can learn from our veterans. Let's ask ourselves how we can serve, whether it's through kindness, leadership, or simply showing up for others. Service doesn't always have to be wearing a uniform. Sometimes it means just being the kind person in the community that people can count on. To the veterans of Fairmont and Martin County and those across the nation, we say thank you for your courage, your sacrifice, and example for us to remember every day of what it truly means to serve. May we honor your legacy not just through our words, but through our actions by living with gratitude, respect, and commitment, and making our community, our country, a better place. At this time, please stand as the color guard posts our colors, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem.
Prepare to post. Prepare to post. Post. And salute. Two. Left face. Right shoulder, arm. Forward, march.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Our speaker today is Tom Barentz, a farmer from Brewster. He joined the Minnesota National Guard in 1980, receiving training in the motor platoon in Worthington, Minnesota. In 1986, he became a squad leader in the infantry platoon and became a platoon sergeant a few years later. In 1992, the state recognized the unit into a field artillery unit, and in 1995, he was promoted to first sergeant. After 20 years in service, he retired in the year 2000. In 2002, he came out of retirement and rejoined his unit as first sergeant in Laverne and Pipestone. The unit was called to serve overseas in August of 2003, serving 6 months as security forces on an Air Force base in Lakeland Heath, England. He was promoted as Sergeant Major in September of 2004, working in the Fire Support Division of the Divisional Artillery. In July of 2005, he was promoted to Command Sergeant Major in the 1st 125th Field Artillery. He deployed to Iraq in April of 2006 and came home in July of 2007. His unit was one of the units that had the longest deployment of either the Iraq War or the Afghanistan War, serving 1 year, 3 months, and 16 days in combat. He retired in 2010 after 29 and a half years of service. He was awarded several awards to include the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Iraqi Campaign Medal, the Combat Action Badge, and the Bronze Star. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome retired Commander Sergeant Major Tom Barentz.
Thank you. Yesterday we had a funeral in Fairmont for a local veteran, Woody, and One of the veterans there made the mistake of telling me that today was his birthday. So the first thing I'd like to do is, Ringo, please raise your hand, and I'd like for all of us to sing happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ringo. Happy birthday to you. Sorry about that, but I had the opportunity, so I took it. Students, teachers, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, family and friends, fellow veterans, good afternoon. I am Command Sergeant Major Tom Behrens, retired. It is an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to speak before you on this Veterans Day. To the veterans in the audience, thank you for your service. Veterans, would you please stand up to be recognized? To the non-veterans in the audience, thank you for making this country worth fighting for. What is Veterans Day? Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, the end of World War I, is a federal holiday in the United States observed annually on November 11th for honoring honorably discharged military veterans of the United States Armed Forces. At the urging of major U.S. veteran organizations, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day in 1954. The first Armistice Day celebration was held at Buckingham Palace, commencing with King George V hosting a banquet in honor of the President of the French Republic. During the evening hours of 10 November 1919, the first official Armistice Day events were subsequently held in the grounds of Buckingham Palace on the morning of 11 November 1919, which included a two-minute silence as a mark of respect for those who died in the war and those left behind. The sound of silence. Major hostilities of World War I were formally ended at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, when the armistice with Germany went into effect. On that day, the guns fell silent, but it wasn't until towards the end of the day. I imagine the artillerymen probably figured they might as well shoot what they had ready rather than let them go to waste. Imagine the silence after an estimated 900 million to 1.2 billion artillery rounds were fired, approximately 222 million from the German forces at us. Imagine the silence and the peace after all the noise of war. And for everybody out there, an artillery round will literally, the kill radius is around 50 yards around it. So if you imagine the amount of devastation that was done by that many artillery rounds, it's just mind-boggling. My hometown of Brewster, Minnesota, around 500 residents. We had 88 young men march off to fight the war, to end all wars. Only one died from Spanish flu in Kansas before he even deployed overseas. But I have pondered, how did the rest of them survive the carnage they had to endure? I imagine they all died a little in that horrible war. Many of them were gassed or wounded. My dad, World War II veteran Philip Behrens, recollected how the World War I veterans of Brewster were affected by the gas years after World War I had ended. Veterans Day is distinct from Memorial Day, a U.S. public holiday in May. Veterans Day commemorates the service of all U.S. veterans, while Memorial Day honors those who have died while in military service. Another military holiday that also occurs in May, Armed Forces Day, honors those currently serving in the U.S. military. Additionally, Women's Veterans Day is recognized on June 12th by a growing number of U.S. states that specifically honor women who have served in the U.S. military. Let us make sure those days are filled with gratitude, for all gave some, and some gave all. What is a veteran, you may ask? As mentioned before, it is someone who was honorably discharged from one of the branches of the United States Armed Forces. the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and the Space Force. Let's go back in time to when that service member raised their right hand and took the oath of enlistment. The oath is a commitment to protect the nation and its values, and the promise to defend the Constitution. The oath was first adopted in 1789 and amended over the years. Please rise if you are able, raise your right hand, and repeat after me to get a feel of what our veterans pledged when they enlisted. Please rise. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and a uniform code of military justice. So help me God. You may be seated. Very powerful words, and no, you are not enlisted in the armed forces now. What does that mean? In a nutshell, it means that you are no longer a civilian. You are a member of the United States of America Armed Forces, and you are prepared to give your life for your country. Pretty powerful commitment. Depending on the timing of a veteran's life, they may serve during peacetime if our nation is not at war. Or they may end up in the trenches, the snowy forests of Bastogne, the jungles of Vietnam, the mountains of Afghanistan, the deserts of Iraq. But they are all veterans, as they would have all died for this great country if that was the case. In September of 2005, on the first day of school, Martha Cothran, a history teacher at Robinson High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, did something not to be forgotten. On the first day of school, with the permission of the school superintendent, the principal, and the building supervisor, she removed all the desks in her classroom. When the first period kids entered the room, they discovered that there were no desks. "Ms. Cothran, where are our desks?" She replied, "You can't have a desk until you tell me how you earned the right to sit in a desk." They thought, well, maybe it's our grades. "No," she said. "Maybe it's our behavior." She told them, "No, it's not even your behavior." And so they came and went, the first period, second period, third period. Still no desks in the classroom. Kids called their parents to tell them what was happening. And by early afternoon, television news crews had started gathering at the school to report about this crazy teacher who had taken all the desks out of her room. The final period of the day came, and as the puzzled students found seats on the floor of the deskless classroom, Martha Cothran said, "Throughout the day, no one has been able to tell me just what he or she has done to earn the right to sit at the desks that are originally found in this classroom. Now I am going to tell you." At this point, Martha Cothran went over to the door of her classroom and opened it. 27 U.S. veterans, all in uniform, walked into that classroom, each one carrying a school desk. The vets began placing the desks in rows, and then they would walk over and stand alongside the wall. By the time the last soldier had set the final desk in place, those kids started to understand, perhaps for the first time in their lives, just how the right to sit at those desks had been earned. Martha said, "You didn't earn the right to sit at these desks. These heroes did it for you. They placed the desk here for you. They went halfway around the world, giving up their education and interrupting their careers and families so you could have the freedom you have. Now it's up to you to sit in them. It is your responsibility to learn, to be good students, to be good citizens. They paid the price so that you could have the freedom to get an education. Don't ever forget it." By the way, this is a true story, And this teacher was awarded the Veterans of Foreign Wars Teacher of the Year for the state of Arkansas in 2006. She is the daughter of a World War II POW. Any adversary who has ever faced an American in combat knows that it is the idealism of our service personnel that makes us strong. For the American soldier does not fight for glory or for spoils or for the love of war. These things are completely opposed to what it means to be a son or a daughter of democracy. To the contrary, an American soldier fights for ideals and a way of life. And there is nothing more precious to national defense than soldiers who fight for things they believe in. This is the call that has gone out to every generation of Americans. Let's take a look back at some of the patriots that have fought for our freedoms for 250 years. In 1775, Patrick Henry echoed the call when he asked his fellow Virginians, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery?" People answered that call at places like Bunker Hill, Saratoga, Long Island, Valley Forge, Trenton, and Charleston. After 7 long years of bloodshed and privation, they stood together at Yorktown and for the first time as a free people. This has been true from the earliest days of the Republic, when George Washington addressed his troops in the winter of 1776. He knew his army was hanging on by a thread. They had been defeated at New York by the British. Just 6 months after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, they had been forced to withdraw from Philadelphia. His men were cold and tired. Most had no uniforms. Many stood barefoot on the snow and ice of Valley Forge. Yet Washington begged his men to stay just 1 month longer. He appealed to them with these words, "You will render this service to the cause of liberty and to your country, which you probably never can do under any other circumstances." He added that the army was engaged in the crisis, which is to decide our destiny. As the muster was sounded, he heard his men say to one another, "I will stay if you stay. We cannot leave under such circumstances." And one by one, they took a step forward to re-enlist in the cause. It is true Washington's army remained cold and hungry all that winter, but America's continental soldiers sustained themselves on ideals of liberty and the right to self-determination. The freedom and prosperity we enjoy today is the destiny for which they fought. The same spirit of idealism that compelled the colonists to stand up to the English also gripped the very soul of Martin Treptow. He was a barber in a small Midwestern town when America entered the First World War. As a messenger between 2 frontline American units, Treptow often volunteered to run dispatches between frontline units. He was eventually killed by the shell that landed at his feet. When he was carried off the battlefield, a diary was discovered on his body. And on the diary's flyleaf, there appeared the words, "My pledge." It reads as follows: "We must win this war. Therefore, I will work. I will save. I will sacrifice. I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." But no soldier's story better exemplifies the American commitment to ideals than the story of George Wilson. Exactly 1 year before the bombing of Pearl Harbor, a young Pennsylvanian named George Wilson enlisted in the United States Army. He was only 16 at the time, and he had to lie to his recruiter to pass muster. But even at that young age, Wilson believed that only his country could save the world from fascism and from the insanity of dictatorships. When the time came for his country to fight alongside the last free nations on earth, he wanted to be ready. George Wilson was more than ready. He became a living statistical anomaly of the Second World War. Casualty rates in that conflict were as high as 100% for frontline units. But George Wilson saw combat in 5 of the worst battles of the European theater: in the Normandy hedgerows, the Siegfried Line, Aachen, the Hurtgen Forest, and the Battle of the Bulge. He was wounded 3 times at the Bulge and eventually was captured by the Germans. He spent the last few months of the war in the infamous Zwickau prisoner camp before being liberated. George Wilson believed that a medal is a useless scrap of ribbon and iron unless it stands for something. To him, standing for something is about making a lifelong commitment to the principles and the values on which America was founded. It means working in VA hospitals to ensure that all wounded or disabled veterans receive the best care possible. It means being proud of one's nation, to fly the flag in one's community, and to work on behalf of patriotic organizations to keep those communities strong. And it means never failing to support America's troops wherever they may serve and for whatever reason. The same sense of idealism has sustained every generation of Americans who has taken up arms for their country. One need only read the letters that soldiers have written to experience how deeply most believed in their cause. In February 1944, Corporal Samuel Furash wrote the following words to his daughter as he prepared for the invasion of Normandy. "We have a foundation which is stronger than the very earth that holds us, the belief in truth, righteousness, and the right of men to live and work in a society of equality." The same hope for a better world can be read in the words of Sergeant Carl Goldman, an aerial gunner aboard a B-17 Flying Fortress. In the middle of his first tour of duty in England, he wrote to his family of his hopes and of his ideals. "If after this terrible war is over, the world emerges a saner place to live, then I'm glad I gave my efforts with thousands of others for such a cause." Sergeant Goldman sealed his letter with the words, "To be opened in case of casualty only." He died in action over the skies of Western Europe. Young people who proudly wear the uniform of our armed forces are motivated by more than these lofty ideals. They also share a profound sense of humanity. This was the case of Sergeant George Mitchell, whose name is now permanently etched on the honor roll of the 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant Mitchell saw his first combat action during the Gulf War of 1991. Even in the midst of heavy fighting, he could not ignore the dire condition of the children he saw in the towns and villages of Iraq, which many of us witnessed. He could not bear to think that he and his fellow soldiers would leave them to suffer under Saddam Hussein. Sergeant Mitchell re-enlisted in the Army shortly before the Iraq War began in March of 2003. According to his brother, he expressed great delight in knowing that the children of that devastated country would grow up in a country free from a brutal dictator. In town after town on the road to Baghdad, he watched as children peered from behind windows and doorways as his column moved by. Sergeant Mitchell told his family that he had completed the mission he had begun in 1991. Not long thereafter, Sergeant George Mitchell was killed when a missile struck his position 7 miles south of Baghdad. It is the sincere wish of his family and fellow soldiers that his death not be in vain. In his memory, they hope that the children of Iraq will inherit a republic that is free and prosperous, that shines as a beacon in a region so devoid of hope. And that perhaps is the highest ideal that all American service personnel aspire to, the ideal of living in peace. Now, war for war's sake has no place in our armed forces, nor will it find favor in the American way of life. Today, thousands of young people answer the call from every state and every territory of this great nation. They come from all walks of life. They represent our best and our brightest. They are patriotic to the core. They all recognize the special mission their country has entrusted to them. Today's military, in the midst of transformation, is changing the way it does business to become a more flexible, powerful, and responsive organization. But one thing never needing to transform is the indomitable spirit of the American service member, and it shows, it always has. Our service members personify the values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. They also are fully aware of the special risks they have been asked to take, just like every other generation of Americans. But without a doubt, they are some of the best educated, best equipped, and best trained service members this nation has ever produced. History has shown the tremendous potential possessed by a nation whose citizens are willing to fight for ideals, willing to take a stand for freedom and the right of national self-determination. And this is true whether those citizens fight on their home ground or in lands far away. The great military strategist Sir Liddell Hart once said that soldiers who are infused with a faith will beat men who have no faith. Only a good one can withstand the impact. From the Revolutionary War all the way to the liberation of Iraq, America's service members have proved the truth behind that time-tested statement, and few have withstood their impact. Every generation has their heroes, and ours is no exception. There have been literally thousands of stories of heroes throughout our history. Their fallen remains line the fields at Arlington and Normandy and countless other memorial grounds around the world. Some of these service members' names are lost to history and some to war. Their efforts will never be forgotten. As a nation, we never stop doing everything we can to bring home our POWs and MIAs. We are reminded of that duty by the black and white POW MIA flag we fly. Let me read a recent obituary that was printed this fall. Rosalind Edward Griesens was born in South Dakota to Edward Griesens and Hattie Johnsma Griesens. He had one brother, Leonard, and three sisters, Arlene, Velva, and Lila. Rossi, as he was known, attended school in Hill City, Minnesota, and enlisted in the United States Army on January 3rd, 1949. After his military training as a combat construction specialist, he was sent to occupy Japan as part of the post-World War II occupation forces. When the Korean conflict broke out, Rossi's unit was reassigned to Korea. As a corporal in Company B, 3rd Engineer Combat Battalion, on August 11, 1950, Rossi was a member of a 14-man patrol on the west side of the Nangtong River. The mission was to penetrate the enemy line and observe location, movement, and strength of the enemy. There was enemy contact, and the patrol attempted to withdraw after taking heavy casualties. Corporal Griesens advanced toward the enemy and accounted for at least 15 enemy casualties. He was last seen firing at the enemy as the patrol retreated. The Army issued a presumptive finding of death on December 31st, 1950, after attempts to locate and recover any remains from the area. Corporal Griesens was posthumously awarded the Silver Star for his actions and was also promoted to sergeant. In addition to the Silver Star, he was awarded the Purple Heart, Combat Infantry Badge, Korean Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Republic of Korea Presidential Citation, Republic of Korea War Service Medal, United Nations Service Medal, the Army Presidential Unit Citation, and the Army Good Conduct Medal. Sergeant Griesens is remembered at the Courts of the Missing Honolulu Memorial and at the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. He also has a cenotaph, a monument to someone buried elsewhere at Fort Snelling National Cemetery. Sergeant Griesens' remains were identified on February 28, 2025, nearly 75 years after dying for his country. Sergeant Griesens' mother, Hattie, always believed that he would come home, and now he has. Many lined the road to pay respects as the funeral procession made its way to his final resting place. A teacher in Hill City had her class line the street when his remains were transported to the cemetery. It brought tears to the eyes of the veterans transporting him home at last. Finally, let's not forget the tremendous commitment displayed by service members' families and the support that they provide. When we talk of service and sacrifice, we must never forget the wives, husbands, sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and other loved ones who stand behind our service members. Their unconditional love and their steadfast loyalty to our service members are invaluable in every aspect of what our Army does. The devotion and support of our Army families represent all that we fight for and all that we hold dear. How can we honor the veterans who have paid the price for our freedoms? When you see one, thank them for their service. If they are wearing a hat signifying that we're overseas, tell them, welcome home. If we see a veteran license plate behind us in a drive-thru, pay ahead for their meal. If you see a veteran dining somewhere, purchase their meal anonymously if you'd like. And in Brewster this morning, they sang a song, place a hand over your heart if you see a veteran. So that was a pretty humbling song that they sang. We can also pay respect to our nation's colors, the flag of the United States of America. We can teach proper flag etiquette, so the flag many fought and died for is always respected. We can stand at attention for the national anthem, face the flag, and place our hand over our heart. Let us always remember the men and women of our military and the rights they have won for us. As you go forward, Remember the ideals that service members have fought for. Freedom is not free. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Thank you.
As part of our Community Service Day, our junior high students took time to learn about the meaning and significance of Veterans Day. They reflected on the sacrifices made by those who have served and the freedoms we enjoy because of your courage and commitment. Today, our students would like to share letters they wrote to express their gratitude. These letters come from the heart. They are small but sincere reminders that your service continues to shape the lives of our younger generations. On behalf of our school community, thank you for your service, your example, and your dedication to our country. It is our honor to share these letters with you today.
At this time for a sign of respect and gratitude, I ask everyone to please stand and join me for a moment of silence. For a moment of silence for all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for freedom. Please stay standing throughout the playing of taps. At this time, I'd like to welcome the orchestra back to the stage. And as our orchestra just takes the stage, I'd like to thank everyone who made this program possible, the music departments particularly, and every student that participated. So if we could give them a round of applause right now, it's fantastic work. So to close today, I want to thank you all for your attention and respect that you've shown throughout today as we honor the courage, commitment, and sacrifice of our veterans. It's truly an honor to gather here in Fairmont to recognize the men and women who have served our nation, some of whom are here today, and others who live in our memories and in the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. Today's assembly has given us a chance to pause, to step back from our routines, and really reflect on what it means to serve. We've heard some stories and seen examples of remarkable dedication, not just those who have served in distant places, but those who are right here in our hometown and continue to serve our schools, churches, local businesses. Their service didn't end when they took off the uniform. It just simply transformed. Here in Fairmont, that spirit of service is part of who we are. We see it at the American Legion, the VFW, and all of our many veterans who continue to lead, volunteer, and make quiet differences. Their actions remind us of the true strength is measured not by recognition, but by the dedication to others. For our students, I hope today serves as more than just a ceremony. You're at the beginning of discovering the difference you can make in the world. Veterans Day reminds us that the courage and service don't belong to one generation or to one path. They're choices that we can make every single day, whether you serve in the military someday, give back through community service, or simply stand up for what's right. Each of you have the power to make a mark. Veterans show us what resilience and integrity look like in action, and we thank them. We're also accepting the challenge to live in a way that honors their sacrifices by being responsible citizens, compassionate neighbors, and people of character. As we leave here today, let's remember that honoring our veterans isn't something we do just once a year. It's something that we carry forward in the way we treat one another, respect we show, the gratitude we can express. A simple thank you can go a long way. But so we can listen to a veteran's story, volunteering your time, or striving to live up to the ideals that they fought to protect. So as we close, I ask all of us to carry on the spirit of today. Thank you again for being part of today's ceremony, and to all the veterans that are here and can't be in attendance. We are deeply grateful for your service and sacrifice. At this time, remain standing as the color guard retires our colors. And after the ceremony, please sit as we dismiss our veterans to attend social in the Commons. Students, you'll be dismissed after all of our veterans have made their way to the Commons.
And salute. Two. Two. Prepare to retreat. Left face. Forward, march.
At this time, veterans, you are dismissed to the cafeteria. Thank you for your attendance today. Everyone else, feel free to take a quick seat. So as we dismiss here today, real quick, guys, and as we listen to the orchestra, on your way out, the veterans will be in the Commons, and I think you've heard it said a couple times in a couple different ways, but sometimes a simple thank you means so much. It's hard when you don't necessarily know somebody to reach out, thank them for their service, but those conversations mean so much. So as you leave today, please consider going out to the Commons, introducing yourself, and just saying thank you as we're dismissed for the day. So I'm going to start with 7th and 8th grade. You are dismissed. And seniors. Juniors.